The Town began November with a hard-fought 1-1 draw against West Bromwich Albion at Kenilworth Road on Friday night, in a game that probably isn't going to live too long in the memory, it's fair to say. Alongside me to review the game, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and the Town fan Diaz Ali from the Unchained podcast. Gents, fair to say, not going to live long in the memory bank, that one.
Yeah, well, that doesn't bode well for us talking about it, but yeah, we'll take the positives and move on.
We'll see exactly what we can get out of that game and look ahead to a busy week to come right after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the longest running Luton Town podcast, which this season is shortlisted for the Best Football League podcast in this year's Football Content Awards. We're sponsored by Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we are reflecting on Luton Town 1, West Bromwich Albion 1, and I've got Jimbo as always alongside me and Diaz Ali from the Unchained podcast. Diaz, before we get into football and everything, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man.
You're more than welcome. Give us a little bit of info about your own podcast.
Yeah, we run the, it's me, my brother and my friend, we run the Unchained podcast. We basically dive deep into personal journey with athletes, entrepreneurs, people. We've had drug addicts on, anyone who has a story. And we basically dive deep into their life, look at the triumphs they've had, how they've come back from addiction or how they've overcome setbacks in their life. And then we try to give our followers that information and they can apply it to their own life and take it on board.
Excellent stuff. Plug it for anyone that wants to follow.
Yeah, it's just _Unchained Minds on everything. So Twitter, Spotify, YouTube, at Unchained Minds _.
We'll link it in the show notes and everything, but I can give you my personal recommendation. It's a good watch.
You have to get Jimbo on there if you can get his mind.
No, I'd love to have him on. That's what we said when we were speaking about it. Because at the start, when it was called the Curious VG, and it went down a combat sports route, and then we thought, let's rebrand it because we've had authors on, like I said, drug addicts. We've had athletes on. We've had ex-professional footballers. So we wanted to make it inclusive for everything, not just sports.
If you can get his mind sorted out, then you are on the right track. Yeah, that is for sure. You're also a Luton fan?
Yeah.
What have you made of the season so far?
From coming down from the premise a little bit, it's dull. I feel like the players kind of have lost that belief a little bit. Like, oh, we've done really well in the Prem and now we've got to play in the Championship. They sort of look a bit, I don't know what the word is for it, just a bit like the play is dull. Their mentality is a bit dull. Especially from what we remember last season, like they were going toe to toe with the best teams in the world, and then you're coming out thinking, Jesus, like if we do go back down, we're gonna bounce straight back up. But everyone knows the Championship's a tough league; it's a completely different league to the Premier League. I don't think it's panic stations. I think maybe this season we don't get promoted. I just think the fans' expectations and the club's expectations are just two completely different things. The club will probably just stay in the Championship until the new stadium comes. The fans are like, oh, panic stations, Rob Edwards out, we need to go up straight away. I think just a little bit more calmness, look from where we've come, enjoy it. And as long as we stay in the Championship, I'll be all right with that.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough to me. Enjoy it. It's hard to enjoy games like Friday night though, Jimbo, because for 45 minutes in particular, I mean, Halloween was the night before, but that was pretty scary. Well, not scary, was it? It was so mundane. It was untrue. But ultimately, when you think that it coming off the back of that collapse at Coventry, a solid point against a team who only wanted a point, they only ever came for a 0-0 draw, West Brom, nearly shit themselves when they went 1-0 up. Has to be taken as a positive, really. And actually, if you do take that Coventry result aside, and we were pretty down after the Coventry game, it's now 3 positive performances in 4. Okay, they've all been at Kenilworth Road. But we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you remember the preview? I wanted an absolutely tedious 0-0 goalless draw to get us started. I'll take a 1-0, but it was, pretty tough going in that first half from both teams. Neither of them could string a pass together, like one pass to each other.
I mean, you can see how they draw so many games 0-0. The ball's in play like minus minutes, isn't it? First one fell down after 90 seconds. I'm really not slagging them off because I said that I wanted us to do this at Coventry. Yet again, we got another masterclass on how to manage a game. But it's like, come on, we're all sitting here. It's getting a bit cold now. Come on, someone liven this up for Christ's sake, because it was like, it needed resuscitating, didn't it? It just didn't go anywhere, that game, for so long. It was like you say, we don't want it. Well, no, we don't want it either. Or you're tough, you're having it. No, you're having it. And it's like, someone just put a foot on the ball, please.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you expect really after the beating they got at Coventry and the manner it went down? The confidence is obviously going to be knocked. But I think even though it was, one of probably the worst game of football we've seen this season.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I still thought it was worse at Sheffield United, but it wasn't great.
True. Well, yes, I'll give you that actually, because Luton still did have the better of it and a couple of chances. Carlton Morris had a decent shot, but it was always going to be saved. And they created most of it, which is why when the goal came for West Brom, it was a complete shock. Not only because they'd got near Luton's box, but first shot on target and goes in. It's just, and that's kind of feels like how the luck's gone. And at that point, I was fearing the worst because they've had 2 clean sheets going into the game, barely conceded a goal for the entire month of October, albeit they've drawn most of them.
Barely played any of football in the entire month of October either, based on that evidence.
Yes. I couldn't see how Luton were going to get back into it, even though they were playing well, because there wasn't the cutting edge that we were hoping for. So the fact that they did is a positive. And when you look at it, like you said, 3 positive performances at home, you get a point from a game that perhaps maybe you would have lost in previous weeks. You have to take the small steps really to get where you want to go. We'd all love it to turn instantly and be, Brazil 1970 straight away, but it's not going to be like that. The realistic approach would be that they've just got to apply themselves, work their socks off like they did, and hopefully they get their reward somewhere along the line, because there's been games where they haven't.
And Championship football is literally survival of the fittest, isn't it? It's the one who's playing best at the end that tends to do something. I mean, just look at the results this weekend. Who saw QPR nil, Sunderland nil coming? Okay, I know Sunderland down 10 men for half an hour, but even so, who saw Millwall 1, Burnley nil coming? It's the Championship. This is absolutely bonkers. I mean, Norwich 1-0 up with a minute to go against Cardiff, don't even get a point in the game. Coventry, who was third from bottom when we went there last Saturday, they've just gone to Middlesbrough and absolutely dropped them. This league's absolutely 100% bonkers. You've just got to be as consistent and as level as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing with the Championship though, because you look back at Nottingham Forest a few seasons ago when they went up. They were bottom of the table for so long, and then they went on a 5, 6, 7, 8 game run, and next minute they're in the playoffs. So it is, but the one thing that does really worry me, and it worried me in the Premier League, it's the game management. The game management is so poor from Luton. Like 5, 6, 7 minutes before half time, he touches it down in the box, comes back out, and then back heels it in the bottom corner. It's like that, little things like that. You go into that game at 0-0 at half time, that 1 point probably turns to 3. But then, like you said, off the back of the Coventry loss, it's not the worst result. West Brom are 6th in the table.
Yeah, it says everything about this division that they're 6th in the table, because they were the worst team that's come to Kenilworth Road, that's for sure, and for a long time.
Well, we've spoken about the game management thing as well. I think we're on the same page as you, because sometimes a little too nice, and they
not a little.
No, it's too nice, and they haven't shut things down or tripped people up, or even taken the, if you're really struggling, take just those tactical fouls where you go down, pretend, hold your ankle, get somebody on, calm it down a bit. So none of that, it doesn't really happen for Luton, does it? But we get it all the time from everyone else.
I seem to forget the season when we went up. What was our game management like that season? I can't put my finger. I can't really remember what it was like. I don't
think we were like bringing the physio on all the time like these teams do. But Horvath was a master in taking as long as he could over goal kicks and moving them to the other side of the, and all of that stuff. And we did get a lot of yellow cards for time wasting, but we won a lot of games 1-0 off the back of that. And yeah, we're absolutely too nice, but it didn't come back to haunt us on Friday night. Obviously, it did on Saturday. Listen, we went through the Coventry stuff in the Coventry review. As long as we learn from that, and to be fair to Rob, we'll come on to it in a minute, but he learned from an awful lot of what we asked during that Coventry review. We got it against West Brom. The big thing going into the game, nobody knew who was going to line up in defence. Even in the press conference, Rob was pretty coy, although there was no way he could have hidden that Ted and Mengi was going to play, because no sooner had Rob said, we'll give Mengi as long as we possibly can, he's putting a video of him doing keepy-ups on his Instagram page out at the same time. So, hello, Ted. Nice to see you in the starting lineup. But no one saw Amari Bell coming back quite so quickly, and my word, we are a better team when he's in it.
Yeah, we really are. He's such an assured presence, but he, as well as his defence and some pace as well, he offers, as Burke does, but Burke's not there at the moment. He can take it out of defence and start the attacks and link the midfield, and he does that so well.
Well, what he offers is a calmness. There's so much, it's so frenetic in our defence that when Bell's got it, it's like he's got so much time. He's got so much space. He's like having he's in a world of his own. He's like he's dreaming and playing nice football, and it's good to see. Actually, it worked out really well that they didn't fancy a game of football, West Brom, in that first half, because we managed to condense, having two injured, well, they both started at centre-half, Mengi and Bell. We thought Bell would start left wing-back when we saw the team. That was Victor Moses, who started left wing-back. Daiki Hashioka finally, 10 months after arriving at the club, finally got to play a game in his position that we've signed him. Mengi was on the right-hand side of the defence. Bell was on the left-hand side. McGuinness in the middle. West Brom let us condense it to a 45-minute game, really, which suited them too, because you wouldn't have thought in a high-paced, physical, relentless game that they'd have lasted 90 minutes because they've just come back from injury. But they kind of managed to do 90 minutes because really the game was only 45 minutes of actual football.
It wasn't a fast-paced game. No. For the neutral, it was an awful game. It was an awful game.
For a Luton fan, it weren't much better.
You're watching it, and it was honestly a bad game of football. And then when they scored, I was sort of just like, do I want to watch the rest of this? Like, do I really want to? Like, you kind of felt like you knew what was coming in that second half. Like, well, are we going to turn it around? That's just the luck of Luton at the minute. But Amari Bell, like the calmness. But I feel like we've missed that with not having Osho. Like selling Gabe was. I thought last season, every time he played, we just looked so much better. So losing him, then Bell getting injured is sort of like Reece Burke's been the saviour. And no one would probably be thinking like you're like, when's Reece Burke coming back from injury sort of thing. So having him back, maybe this will be the start of that run we need once everyone's back.
I mean, the fact that they both did 90 minutes can only be a positive. There were a lot of positives on Friday night. We'll come on to them towards the end of the podcast, but they're two real positives. If they can do 90 minutes off the back of no football whatsoever, and as I said, it was only a 45-minute game, because the first 45 minutes, I mean, if we'd forwarded straight to half-time, the energy levels wouldn't have been much different, would they? There was nothing in that first half.
No, but most of it was played in the West Brom half as well, so those players they didn't have to do much really, which was good. And I thought it might be quite physical with Major up there, but really the goal was the first time I ever remember him touching the ball. You got handed to him as quite a cheeky back heel, but the build up for the goal, and it's not great. Tedden gets pulled out of position, and then it leaves Clark as the only man defending, and we don't want Clark defending. I mean, that's we spoke about in the last one, so. As good as the finish is, it's one of those it's so frustrating because they offered nothing else, and maybe they caught them on the hop a bit, but that's one of these things that can't happen. You've got to be concentrating all the time, and yeah, I'm with Diaz. I just thought, bloody hell, this is going to be a hell of a slog, and albeit they came out in the second half and kept pressing, kept playing well. Still, the chances weren't coming, but in the end, it's well deserved, and it feels kind of a relief, really, because that was a game that looked like they were going to lose all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. Before Rob Edwards arrived, that's a game that we lose every single day of the week. That's for sure. I mean, the goal. I mean, we had a horrendous defensive read at Coventry with Clark and Krause both chasing down Sheaf to lay it off to someone who was absolutely wide open for their second goal. Torp, wasn't it? And McGuinness has made an absolute shocker of a defensive read. Mengi's got, I think it's Grant, isn't it? Mengi's got him all day long. Why McGuinness has gone out to try and win the header when Mengi could easily win that header, I don't know. And then, like you say, you look in the middle and you've got Clark against Madger and you're like, yeah, no, that's not what we want. Top second highest scorer in the division against Geezer who can't defend. There's only one way that's going to end. Okay, I don't think anyone saw a back heel between Clark's legs. I mean, did time stop? That ball felt like it took 5 minutes from the minute it hit that back heel to roll in the... Someone chase the bloody thing and get rid... No. Everyone looked. Please go wide. Send prayers. It just felt like it took forever to go in the back of the net. Someone get there and boot the thing in the stands.
It's just how it's going, though, isn't it? Yeah, I get what you mean. I had one of the Kenilworth Road posts in my way for the back stick, so I couldn't see.
To be fair, that post was probably more mobile than our defence trying to keep it out.
Yeah, you're probably right. But yeah, it's just the whole goal, that aspect of it is so frustrating. How many times we talked about goals on the stroke of half time and then in the first 10 minutes in the second half, which have killed Luton for the entire year, Premier League and Championship. So it felt like a real killer blow. So you have to really credit the mentality when they came back out, and obviously some changes which were key, I think.
I think that's the perfect thing about it. Like sometimes football is going to be a slog. Sometimes it's going to be ugly and not pretty. As long as you can pick up points in them sort of games, I think that's the most important thing. Because in the Premier League, I remember sitting there thinking, you're doing all this output, giving 110% every game to lose it in the 90th minute. How many weeks can you do that for? Because you're going to burn yourself out. If you're burning yourself out and getting 0 points, it ain't going to last long. So as long as you're doing it and picking up points, it's rewarded at the end of it.
Exactly. I mean, if we'd got a point against Sunderland when we were clearly burning ourselves out, as we saw at Coventry, at least we'd have had 4 points from that week and everyone would have been like, well, okay, we'd have took 4 points from the week. Now, if we can beat Cardiff and we've got 4 points from this week, then we'll have all taken that going to Middlesbrough. Okay, maybe we would have wanted it the other way around. I don't know, but everyone would have took 4 points. Yeah, really, really disappointing goal to concede. Not just because, I mean, I know they've got injuries, West Brom, and fair play, but they weren't interested in a game of football at all, were they? I mean, the pace of the game was dead. Every single time the ball went out of play, it took an absolute eternity to come back into play. It just felt like they wanted to take their 0-0 draw, Scarpa back up the M6. So I was going to say the M1, but it was shut, so they weren't going up there. But, you know, and live to fight another day. And when they went 1-0 up, then you expected the time wasting to double down and, you know, the pace of the play to get even worse if indeed that was possible. But, yeah, you mentioned Rob changed it at half-time. That was the first thing that we wanted him to learn from the Coventry game. He didn't change at half-time there. He did here. And it was a tactical change as well as a substitution. Victor Moses didn't do anything wrong. He actually should have scored in the first half from the rebound off the Elijah shot, shouldn't he? Should have put that in the corner. Probably come to him a little bit too quick to get his feet sorted, but you'd still expect someone of Moses' quality to put that between the posts. And if the keeper saved it, then so be it. But he went off at half-time. Whole sort of change around, really, wasn't it? Both in team selection and everything else. We kind of stuck with the back five with Chong at left wing back at this point, and you know, the midfield and everyone else. I can't even remember off the top of my head now who came on. It was so.
Did Baptiste start?
Baptiste, that's the one. Thank you
yeah,
very much.
because I was thinking, I just seen him in the second half. I thought he didn't start the game.
That's why I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Not only did nothing happen in the first half, but Baptiste hasn't been around for God knows how long anyway, that I forgot Shandon Baptiste came on for Victor Moses. He added a calming presence in the centre of the park. The first half was crying out for someone to love the football. And no one did. So Baptiste came on and he fell in love with the ball. He was recycling play. He was getting our wide players in. So we've got Chong wide, sort of left wing back. Moses had a lot of space in that first half, didn't he? But because he all tends to lean towards his right side, we couldn't really exploit it. So Rob used Chong to use it on his left foot. Hashi was getting forward on the right. And we started the second half a lot, Brian, not creating anything necessarily. So then changes came along again, sort of 15 minutes into the half. 2 more changes happened, and this time we went to a back 4 Another thing that we liked after the Coventry game. Amari Bell just shifted across to left back. Hashi went to right back, and we still had the two centre backs, Mengi and McGuinness. On has come Jacob Brown for Elijah, which I think was a fair sub. Elijah wasn't really getting any joy out of the two centre half. The ball wasn't getting anywhere near him anyway at that point. And then a really, really bad reaction from fans when Krause went off and Liam Walsh came on. To be fair, I looked at it and I thought Jordan Clark was the one to go off at that point and keep Krause on. I wasn't when the substitution happens, you don't actually know that we're going 4-4-2. You kind of think that it's just like for like, Walsh for Krause. I'm not sure I like fans booing substitutions. I mean, this fella knows an awful lot more about football than Joe Bloggs in the crowd, and he's getting paid with his neck on the block. If he believes that Liam Walsh is the man to lead us back into the game, then we need to trust him. This is a guy who's took us to the Premier League. This is a guy who's changed our fortunes in the Premier League. This is a good manager, right? His substitutions, boo it after the game if it doesn't work, but don't boo it during that doesn't help anyone whatsoever. As it turned out, it was a bloody masterstroke because Liam Walsh also loved the football. The two of them were dominating the midfield, and within minutes we were level. As it turns out, West Brom played us in. Moet, who I made out to be the best passer of the ball in the preview, passed the ball lovely to Tahith Chong, who's got a lovely angle down that left-hand side. And as soon as it's opened up, bang, in the bottom corner. And I wouldn't say it was what we deserved, but it was more than welcome when it came.
Because it should have been a draw anyway from the Madrigal, it was like, right, we're back to where it should be. Now we can sort of reset and go from here. Like you said, Baptiste and Walsh changed the game in midfield. But I feel like Luton's always had that where you're crying out when you're watching them say, just don't give away the ball. Stupid balls. Like they'll look up and just go long when it doesn't need to. Go back to the centre backs, go across the centre backs. At them score lines, people are gonna press you, and once you get pressed, then move the ball through the lines. Don't just hoof it long because you're panicking. It's like hot potato. So with them two being on, it was better. I do really like Krause though. I'm a big fan of Krause, but like you said, with the booing, again, it doesn't help. That doesn't help. Like everyone's in the same boat at the minute. The players are disheartened. The manager's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The players are not trying to play bad. The manager's not trying to make mistakes. So now the fans turning on everyone does not help the situation we're in.
There's so many people looking for an excuse to moan and stuff like that. And the best thing that happened was that all three substitutes there worked and they were fantastic. And Brown was wonderful in relieving pressure when he got up there. Walsh kept things ticking over. He's got a bit of spite about him as well in a tackle, which I like. But we need
not too much though.
not too much this time. Thank God he stayed on the pitch an awful lot longer. But we really need to talk about Shandon Baptiste because he is quality. And I said this at the beginning of the season and we just haven't been able to see him and been able to see enough of what he does. And now there you've got a snapshot of exactly what he's been brought in for. The amount of time he was out injured was, the best part of two months, give or take that performance at that couple of minutes at Sheffield United, and nobody played well then. But he just looks cool, calm and collected, gets his foot on the ball, but he can beat your player. We all know he's got a decent delivery and a pass as well, but the athleticism, it's what Luton have been crying out for. Missed it. Like, I genuinely believe that they signed him to, and you can't fill the Ross Barkley void. You can't because he's Ross Barkley, but they signed him to be the championship linchpin, in my view. And we just haven't been able to see that. And every time I've asked Edwards about Shandon Baptiste, his answer is generally always quite similar, which is, this kid can play football. He's a really great footballer, and people need to understand that. They look at his injury record, which is fair enough because he has struggled. But that's not to say he can't come back and get a full run in the team. It's, Pelly was an injury-prone player in his early career, and then he was a mainstay, and everybody loved him in the lower leagues, and that can happen. So they've got to look after him, I think. But if they can, he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, I mean, if you shut your eyes and go back to the Premier League, open your eyes and come back to the Championship, you could think that Baptiste is Lokonga because there is so much similarities about the two of them. They're comfortable on the ball. They glide across the pitch. They've got good delivery. They never give the ball away. I mean, you watch Baptiste's passing. Yeah, a lot of it's simple, but sometimes simple is effective, particularly in a game where West Brom were getting deeper and deeper and deeper. At one point, I thought I was going to have to go to the back of the stand because their defence was going to sit on my lap. But they were getting that deep. And Rob recognised that, didn't he? He said in his post-match interview that we couldn't play the ball long because they were getting deeper and deeper. So we needed to utilise that space in front of them, which is why he brought Liam Walsh on for Tom Krause. When it was explained, it was perfect. I mean, really what Rob needed was a microphone as he was making a substitution to explain to everyone so that they didn't boo the substitution. It just worked. And there's something about Liam Walsh as well. He'll take the ball off the defender and he won't just ping it along. He'll play a pass that isn't just meaningful, but it's where we want the pass to be in terms of the person that's getting the ball doesn't have to break stride. That is becoming a real bugbear of mine. How many passes go behind Luton players and just killing our momentum like that. Walsh passed it in front of players, but he'd also pass it in a place where he took the guy marking that player out of the game. So whoever got it, whether it was Chong on the left or whether it was Hashi on the right, he had 10 yards to run into. It's just simple. But when you see it working, it just works so well. And that's what we were doing last season with Ross Barkley. All of a sudden, we're never going to have Ross Barkley ever again. Well, I hope we do, but let's be honest, we're not. If we can kind of get those passages of play going with different people, it can only benefit us. I mean, hell, we've got 33 games left in this league. We're nowhere near done yet.
Yeah, smart footballers. That's why they can see things that and Luton have never really had smart. We've always been that sort of gritty, grimy team. If you got to go long and grind out a result, we will. So now we're becoming a team who keep the ball a lot more and need to play through the lines. And we're not that team at the bottom of the table that's just gonna sit in that low block. We've got to have smarter footballers, and that's what Rob Edwards has brought in. And that's what I really like about Rob Edwards. He sort of understands that, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If anyone was going to win the game, it was going to be Luton. Luton were the only ones who really wanted to win the game. Even at 1-1, they're more than happy with their draw, aren't they? Chances kind of came and went. Hashi's hit the post from a peach of a corner from Shandon Baptiste. Not all of the corners were great, has to be said, in Alfie's absence. Keeper come and caught more than he's done most of the season. But the ones that did connect created really good chances. And Hashi, I mean, just a few inches the other way, and that's in, and we win the game. Because I think if we'd gone ahead, they didn't strike me as a side that had any ideas about them.
I think you're right. It's a shame that happened because he had a really good game. And
he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
He was the positive from the Coventry loss. We said the way he defended, and that was at centre-back. Now we've finally seen him in his accustomed position. He just looks really good. He's got that engine that all Japanese footballers seem to have. You watch them in the World Cup and they knacker you out watching them. So what they're like playing against, I don't know. He's up and down that line like there's no tomorrow. Even the 91st minute, he's sprinting down that line like he's fresh as a daisy.
He was one of the players last season that I looked at and everyone laughed at me saying it. And I said, if we go back down to the Championship, he's going to be a very good player for us because he suits the Championship. He's physical. He's on you straight away as soon as you touch the ball. It doesn't work in the Premier League because the wingers are too smart. Like they will feel the contact and then get round you. Yeah. So they're too smart for that. But in the Championship, he's the perfect player for the Championship. So I always thought he'd be good. And like you said, now he's showing it, and now we kind of can utilise him. He's a good asset for Luton now.
And he's played 4 games on the trot now. Now you can judge him. None of this 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 90 minutes in a position he's never played before in his life. Now we're seeing the real Hashi. We're seeing him in his position after a run of games, fully fit, clearly fully fit now. And he looks like a good signing.
He does. But that was most of the signings that were made, apart from Ross Barkley and Lokonga. It was like, that was, if you think back to last season, they're making a lot of signings that if it doesn't go right and they come back down, they can perform. I guess that's part of where the frustration is, that the start of the season hasn't gone the way that people wanted. But yeah, he was always going to come in. He's an international player in a Japanese side that was very good. I rated them a lot in that World Cup. The way they went against some of the big European sides was quality.
Any team that sticks the Germans out is good enough for us, isn't it? Hello, Mr. German football manager managing England.
Yeah, we'll take that. But yeah, no, really impressed for him. your man of the match, isn't it?
He was my man of the
talking
match.
about
Yeah, that's nothing against Chong. Of course, Chong scored the goal, and he was a real good outlet down that left-hand side. But when we've just conceded 3 and we've just died on our arse at Coventry, you kind of want someone in defence to stand up and be counted. Geezer he was up against never went past him at all. And then they brought Johnston on, he's a threat in this league. Came from Celtic. When they brought him on, I was like, no, leave him on the bench, lads. We don't need him to come on. Hashi had him in the other pocket. He kept them both in there. I thought it was a really, really good game. I have to say McGuinness, apart from that poor defensive read, he had Madger out of the game completely to a point where when he went off, I was like, oh yeah, he's still playing, isn't he?
He's been improving, McGuinness. The only thing is he's occasionally got at least one mistake in him per game. And if you can cut that out, then yeah, he's going to be really dominant.
There was a block in the second half though that he put in. It was like, because I've called him out after that Plymouth nonsense, and that I'll kind of watch for it now. And he throws himself in front of the ball now. And that's kind of what you want, die for the cause. And if you die for the cause, you'll get rewarded by the people upstairs. They'll give you that. The footballing gods will give you your rewards. Yeah. And he got that. All he's missing now, Mark McGuinness, is a goal. And that's coming soon as well, because he gets his head on so much. There's a player there. There is a player there.
Every time a corner comes now, I'm thinking this is the time for McGuinness. He gets that one goal, and I think it'll start rolling on from there. But there's slight improvements all over the place. It's just that the Coventry game had everyone so down in the dumps about it.
And you down in the dumps, didn't it? Even in the preview show, you was getting called out for being down in the dumps still.
Well, I was. It was pretty dire. We've seen that far too many times, going 2 goals ahead and getting pegged back and going 2-0 up. We don't have to go over old ground, but they weren't the best side, and they were 2-0 up in the first half. Anyway, so I was down, but this one was so much more positive. And I don't know why people would be looking for negatives in it. The one thing I've heard people say, it was a terrible game of football. Yeah, it was. Guess what? In 40 plus game seasons, a lot of the percentage of games are quite terrible.
Mm-hmm. And also,
but it makes you appreciate the good stuff. If you want to see a team utterly dominate a league all the time, go and support Manchester City. Maybe not this season, but
I was going to say it's not worked out well this weekend.
But yeah, but in this division, you've seen teams that you couldn't believe are up the top because they've strung a couple of results together, and then Plymouth gave us a good hiding. They're in the bottom 3 as well, or down there now. So it's really a crazy league. But yeah, there's a lot of dross in football. And that's why going to the game is better than watching it on telly, because it's more than just what's happening. You can go enjoy yourself at a game that's terrible and dross, because other things might happen. There might be some banter that you can get on board with. If you're only ever watching it on TV, then you're only ever going to judge it by, is this a great game of football? It's the second division of English football. Of course, it's not going to be all amazing.
And if you go to the game, you haven't got to listen to Don Goodman's commentary either. So that's never a bad thing, because he never watches a game of football.
He said something like, "This is a cup final for Luton, and not for West Brom." You're like, Luton? What? Luton that were just in the Premier League?
Yeah.
Who's he trying to ingratiate himself with? He was a Wolves player, wasn't he?
The commentary was awful. The commentary was awful. He said a few things like when Hashi hit the post of the crossbar, he's like, well, if he would have got under it a little bit more, then he would have scored. Then it was like, it was a flip. It was a whipped in ball. He got his head to it. It hit the crossbar. What are we talking about here? Like, it's a game of inches.
I mean, Luton fans are sitting there like, oh, Hashi's got a head. Happy days. It's like, yeah, he is the worst. I've listened to him when he's covered Wolves in the Premier League, and you're like, which game are you commentating on, Sam? Because it sure as hell ain't the one we're watching here.
This is the thing with some of these commentators, though. They talk like they were Zidane or Pirlo or Wayne Rooney or something like that. Like you were never that good. No, like you were never that great to talk how you're talking about it.
Exactly that. Yeah. I mean, Don Goodman. I mean, come on now. Yeah, you're right. But also, if you're expecting a classic game of football, look at West Brom's results. There's a lot of drab in there. So they're masters at making games of football drab. What was it? 4-0 already? That was going to be a 5th if something hadn't happened. Sometimes you can only do what the opposition let you do. in much the same way that everyone was moaning that Coventry were all over us, good teams are allowed to be better than us. Okay?
Well, and look at what Coventry have just done at the weekend as well. They've given Borough a beating, haven't they? So,
but if you're going to say things like, oh, it was a drab game of football and we were lucky to get a point, or we were lucky to be 2-0 up at Coventry, you also have to reflect that we were unlucky not to beat Sunderland and that we were really good against Sunderland. And sometimes opposites they just happen. What you need to do is, when you're on top in this league, make the most of it, because you're not going to be on top 46 times. That's, and we're not doing that. We haven't done that anywhere near enough. So now we're going to have to rescue the times where we're not on top to kind of balance out level it out a little bit more. We're kind of in negative for that because we were on top of QPR and lost. We were on top of Sunderland and lost. Other games this season that we should have gone on and won, Preston, that first half an hour at Portsmouth, all of these games that we didn't win. But then on the flip side of that, we've got a point on Friday where I think we were well worth the point, but it wasn't the greatest point in the world in terms of, spectacle. We've turned the Sheffield Wednesday game around when we were 1-0 down, didn't deserve anything from that, but won that. So when you look at it after 46 games, it's all going to be relatively what you should get. We're just looking at it through the microscope of 13 games, and you've always got to have that 46-game picture rather than a 13-game picture.
Again, I think that's down to the expectation the fans had coming from the Premier League back into the Championship. Even myself thinking, we're gonna bounce. Like we're one of the better teams in this league. On paper, with how our season's going, how West Brom season's going, you would have taken a draw. I would have taken a draw. The game went better than expected. We come from a goal down and we got a draw. I don't see the negativity in the game. The game was crap, but Luton never play well when they have to control the ball and go at teams. That's not Luton's style. So to get a point from 1-0 down from how we've been playing, I think I'll take it all day long.
And we've also never beaten Carlos Corberán, and there's a reason for it, because he's a bloody master in killing games of football. He'd done it for Huddersfield that season that they got to the playoff final at our expense, and every West Brom team of his that we've come up against, we've struggled against. Even when we were 2-0 up against them, we've lost 3-2. We always struggle against West Brom. They're just one of these teams that we struggle against. If you're expecting a pretty game of football and us to win 4-0 or anything like that, look at their defensive record, third best defence in the league. It's there for a reason now. We're 13 games in. These records now have some merit to them. Some of them are anomalies, like our defensive record. We're actually a lot better than our defensive record, but the mistakes obviously qualify that. But I think they've conceded something like 8 goals in 13 games. Something stupid. We weren't suddenly going to open them up and score 4. It's just not the way it was going to work. The game really was pretty much how I expected it to be.
And their defence, you have to give them credit. I give them credit anyway. Holgate and Hegham were heading away a lot of the directness that the Luton were coming up with, which is why there were not a lot of clear-cut chances, and obviously missing Doughty as well. There was not that outlet for Luton to get down the sides and cross the ball in. So, but when it did get up there, they were doing pretty well, as well as McGuinness from Luton's side as well. He was heading a lot away, so it was kind of a stalemate in that sense as well as the result. So you've got to give these teams credit sometimes, and I think Diaz is right. You go into a game for a team that was in the playoff spots, and they hadn't won for the entire. Well, they won one in October. I don't know. They hadn't scored anyway for a long time, but kept things out. It was always going to be that way. I think they weren't suddenly going to be free flowing and free scoring in the same way that Luton weren't suddenly going to flip a switch and everything was going to be twinkly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. When Dickie and the ground staff marked the pitch out on Wednesday night, do they stick a basketball court in the Kenilworth end where the penalty box is? Because teams are getting away with playing basketball against us like there is no tomorrow. I mean, the Sunderland handball was an absolute joke. How he's not given a handball against Callum Styles on Friday night. Don't give me this nonsense about a push. He was barely breathed on.
Well, I'm going to give you the nonsense then, because he was.
They went down so easily. If he was genuinely pushed, he'd have been straight on his face in no time.
Well, here's the thing with that. The decision is completely wrong, because it's either a push from Brown and a free kick to West Brom, or it's a handball and a penalty to Luton. It's never in a month of Sundays, a corner. That's just a complete bottle job, or not understanding what's gone on there.
I think that comes down to he knows he's giving the benefit of the doubt to West Brom because he's been pushed. He's like, do you know what? I'll give a corner for that. Like you said, it's a free kick. I thought it was a free kick when I watched it. Or like you said, if it's not a free kick, it's definitely a penalty. So when it was a corner, I was thinking, the only thing that crossed my mind was the ref knew he kind of pushed him, but he didn't give anything for that, so he's given the corner.
Yeah,
Kev
Kev's the only one here who's advocating for this penalty. I didn't think out the time. And well, actually, I think Rob Edwards on your side. He reckons it could be if there was VAR, but no, not for me.
It's a contact sport. You're allowed to touch the opposition.
You are, but you're not allowed to push them in the back.
I
Shoot him
mean,
in the back. He didn't move. He was still upright.
I mean, I agree with Kev in the sense of he didn't give the free kick, so it is a penalty.
Yeah.
It is a penalty because he's not given the free kick, but in my opinion, it was a free kick because it was two hands in the back. It wasn't one hand or a barge. It was two hands in the back, and he sort of, I mean, he did fling his arms up to save, and that's when he smacked the ball. But it's, I thought it was a free kick personally. If it was against me, I'd want a free kick for that.
Penalty all day long.
He's not having it. He's not having it, is he?
I'm not having it. No. No. All the other things that he gave in that game, if he was convinced that there was a push there or anything like that, he would have given. It's just the slight. There was a nudge, but you're allowed contact.
Do you think he's seen it from his angle?
Yeah, I think he's got,
because he was behind. He was kind of behind both of them, looking towards the goal. So would he have seen the hand? I mean,
Gorman scored it down in the corner. He's got a clear view of it.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we've spoken about this in the last home game, that the linos and the refs don't seem to be talking to each other about this, unless they are and we're not noticing. But there was a decision to be made there, and if he hasn't, if you're right and he hasn't seen it, then have a word.
I mean, he should see it though, shouldn't he? He should be following the path of the ball. You know, that's literally your job as a referee, is to make sure you can see the ball at all times. It's not like it's come from a corner where it was a melee. It was a drifted ball over from, I think it was Baptiste. You know, the ball was in the air a long time. As a referee, you've got to make sure you're following the path of the ball, and then you'll see the handball and you'll give the penalty.
I mean, the linesman would have definitely seen it.
Absolutely.
From that side.
Yeah.
But again, I think officiating in England from Premier League level to grassroots level has gone downhill massively.
Oh yeah, big time.
Massively. Like even in our leagues when we're playing, it's like, it's just bad. It's bad to the stage where it's actually borderline dangerous. Like some of the things they let go and the protection of the players, it is borderline dangerous. And then you look how bad it is in the Premier League last season with some of the linesmen's not keeping up with play at Aston Villa away.
Yeah, the
linesman wasn't even keeping up with play. He was behind play and flagging. And I was thinking, this is the Premier League. This is the creme de la creme. And we've got people like this robbing a living.
Yeah, not when Luton are involved, yeah, isn't it? Creme de la creme. It's whoever they can get on the day. The other giveaway, at no stage does Styles claim that he's pushed. He holds his hands up as if to say, I didn't mean it. And that's a telltale sign that he knows he's given a penalty away.
It doesn't matter what he's done there. It's not a penalty.
Anyway, lads, if you want to put a basketball court down that side, there's too much handballing going on in that Kenilworth Road penalty box.
Maybe you have to put a poll out or something,
yeah,
see what the people think.
They'll, rather than put the goal up, they'll stick a basketball net up there at some point, the amount of handballs that's going on in that area. And that would have been a shame, because Morris doesn't miss penalties. 2-1. Game over, because again, they did, even the ones that were coming off the bench didn't really have much. I know Devante Cole had that overhead kick, which was throw my foot at it and see if I can get it in the top corner sort of thing. And thankfully, Kaminsky was awake in the last couple of minutes. But other than that, West Brom could still be there now and weren't going to score a second goal. I mean, they barely looked like scoring the first one.
That was the big thing for me in the last 15 minutes as we were going at them. I was sort of thinking, you know, in the last 15 minutes of a game when it's 1-1, it's normally they have a chance, we have a chance, they have a chance, we have a chance. And I was sort of thinking, there is not really no West Brom chances coming. Like this game potentially is ours for the taking here. And then, like you said, the overhead kick was probably the only chance in the last 15 minutes of the game that they had. It was a good effort and it was a great save. But they. Yeah, like you said, they literally sat back and come to collect a point.
Yeah.
And they done a good job at it because it worked at the end of the day.
Come and collect a point, and if one of them long throws had connected with something and then managed to get a goal, then happy days. I mean, he must have fucking sore arms at the end of a day, mustn't he, Furlong? The amount of times he's hurling that ball in from left and right and everywhere else. It makes me old, though, because we watched his old man, didn't we, playing a Luton shirt, Paul Furlong, and it's like, don't need to be watching their sons. Do you know what I mean? It's not good.
Manchester United have just got a new manager who's younger than me, and that's not fair.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear this.
Luton's first manager that's younger than
Yeah,
me.
Rob Edwards is younger than me.
Yeah, currently in place, and 6 months younger than me, and it makes me feel very, very old, particularly as he's going greyer by the day as well, which it isn't helping out. You mentioned Rob Edwards got a lot of grief, didn't he, after the Coventry game? No, I don't think it was all justified. We pointed out the bits where we were kind of critical and things, but that point was down to Rob Edwards. He made the changes at the right time. He didn't panic. That was the first thing. He read the game really, really well. He made the changes that needed to happen. And if there was going to be a winner in that game, it was going to be Luton. So, for all those that have been critical of Rob Edwards, you've got to hold your hands up and you say, do you know what? Our manager earned us a point there on Friday night.
I think this is football, though. Like, last season, it goes from, oh my God, I hope Ipswich don't sign Rob Edwards and I hope he don't leave us. If he leaves us, we're screwed too. We have a bad start to the season. It's like, this guy needs to go now. It's not all panic stations. It doesn't need to be panic stations. You got to remember, we've lost a lot of key players. Like Osho's been a key player for the last couple of years. Ross Bartley was a key player last year, irreplaceable. The Camber's still been in and out with injury. You've brought in players in key positions, so it was never good. Adebayo starts slow to a season every season. It sort of feels like there's an arc with Adebayo. Every single year, he starts slow. Everyone says he's rubbish, he's this, he's that. Then he gets one goal and then he goes on a run and everyone's like, this is the guy, this is the guy. And it happens every single year I see it. So I think he's managing who he has. And I think some of the players still have that, I should be playing in the Prem. This is not me. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's just going to take time. But I think he's the right man for the job. I think anyone... And unless we go and get relegated, I would risk it to the end of the season, potentially get him relegation and keep him there, then get rid of him and have someone completely new in, a new system, a new style. Like Luton already have a certain way of playing and everything's very planned with Luton. Signings are very planned, management's planned, the training staff's planned. So to just chuck someone sort of in, I think it would be a disaster.
Yeah, we're not that lot down the road, and he's definitely the man. The other thing on Rob, and I forget it sometimes as well, and I shouldn't do. He's a 41-year-old coach. He's not the finished. He can't be the finished article as a coach at 41 years old. You look at all of the top coaches; they were all into their 50s before they become really good. Maybe Arteta's the sort of anomaly to that, but he's only won an FA Cup, and he's making Arsenal worse as he goes along. So he's 41 years old. He's taken on an awful lot. And, sometimes he'll get things wrong. And that's fine, because everyone gets things wrong. What you want is the next time it comes around to do things right. And he did on Friday night. His substitutions were perfect. They were at the right time. Yes, I'd probably still like 5 subs. Not necessarily on Friday night, because there's 5 games till Wednesday night. But if we're not using 5 subs on Wednesday, we need to make some serious changes on Saturday. We don't need that running out of legs debacle that we had at Coventry again. That's the next learning. But everything that we asked of Rob, make those changes, be more precise and concise with those changes, he did it.
There's a difference to 2 games, isn't it? Because didn't feel like anything was learnt from Coventry. Although I did ask him about Coventry and
some very good questions from yourself in that.
Well,
press conference.
Blind squirrel finds an occasional nut.
It's a shame it's only on pay-per-view on LTFC Plus, because you could have really shone in that press conference.
Basically, to summarise, he gave a very good description of all the things he tried to stop Coventry, and none of it worked anyway because they were just the better side. And sometimes you've got to hold your hands up to it. So it was a good description. Which, to be fair, he probably. It's the heat of the moment. He probably would have been better served coming out straight after the game and saying, "Look, I've tried all this and it still didn't work."
I don't think he would. No one would have wanted to have heard it anyway.
But my point is that you want to see learning from the mistakes, and that didn't feel like it, even though he tried to rectify it. But this feels like a learning point because, firstly, the Shandon Baptiste substitution at half time that allowed them to get a little bit more control. Walsh coming on as well, both of them kept the play ticking over in midfield and allowed Luton to stay in West Brom's half, which is where they'd been most of the time in the first half. But you'd have fancied any decent coach to try and figure out a way to pull that back a bit on their side, and it didn't happen. Luton was still the dominant force. And then the legs of Jacob Brown up top, not only legs as well, he kept it really well. He did fantastically, and it was an understated performance that probably won't get the credit it deserves because of some others like Baptiste and Chong's goal and Liam Walsh as well, and the defenders that came back that managed to complete 90 minutes. So that's what we want to see. He's gonna, as long as he succeeds more than he fails, but he is gonna mess things up occasionally, as we all are. The team are going to mess some things up. Maybe he'll mess some things up. That's going to be the ebb and flow of the season. But we need to get on a run where more things go right than not. And the 3 home performances are a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's hear from Rob. James caught up with him after the game. And, well, here's what he had to say, largely on exactly what he did at half-time, actually.
We were much better in the first half just because we were 1-0 down. I don't think we deserved to be. I thought the whole game was really in our half. They scored with almost the first time they were in our box. So we want to try and get that bit right as well. But second half, yeah, we were showed a lot of intent. I was really pleased because to concede when we did, could have really flattened the lads, could have flattened the stadium, made us go a little bit early with the change, the first change. Felt that because our pressing was so good and Vic was obviously pressing high up, it suited Chongi to do that as well. So obviously when we're defending low, he was going to have to defend as almost a wing back, but felt it was the right thing for Chongi to do that tonight, and he could give us that. So made that call, wanted to just get Shandon on. I think Shandon's got loads of quality, so just thought he could help us. And then went early with a couple of other subs as well. So pleased with the impact they had, and the whole performance. I thought momentum was pretty much with us the whole game. They had little moments, and the spells where they had chances were probably from long throws and things like that. So we defended well a couple of times in the second half when we needed to and put bodies on the line. I would have liked the territory and the possession and the sort of momentum that we had in the game to turn that into more quality openings and opportunities and shots. And you could see there's maybe a little bit of a hesitancy at times in front of goal, too many touches or snatching at things, and I think that's understandable. But overall, to go behind just before half time, to come back and keep that performance going, I was pleased. So yeah, I always got a bit to say at half time, but it wasn't a rant or a rave because a lot of it was good. It was about, right, we've got to do, I'm going to be calm. Let's just make sure now that we act in the right way and keep doing what's causing them problems with pressing. Our pressing is ridiculous. It's so good, and they just chose to just miss it all the time. So that's fine. Gave us the ball, and then we just, it was the right thing to do to go early with a couple of the subs, because I felt then that they were starting to drop, thinking that we're going to go into the strikers, and it might just free up a bit more space for Shandon and Walshy, and that's why we made those decisions as well. And pleased that it worked. Obviously we have to make some big calls, and people weren't happy about Tom coming off. I understand that Tom's good, but different to Walshy, and we wanted someone then who could hopefully give us a bit more control, which he did. So that was it, and it worked. What we always try and do is give the lads 5 minutes so they can think. We have a few minutes as a group of staff to talk about the game. What you can't let affect you too much then is one moment, because that's what it was, one moment where they got into the box, we didn't deal with a long ball, he comes back out, didn't block it, didn't, good finish and all that, but we can't let that then just completely derail you and change fully what you're going to do. So like I said, it did make me make a change, because I felt we needed that fresh impetus just to, and I felt that maybe just lacked a little bit of energy or something, that final bit. But I wouldn't have done the change necessarily if we hadn't have conceded. So it made me tweak something, but the message was probably the same. The last 3 games, especially here, Cov, like I said the other day, was maybe one step too far. But Watford, Sunderland, and tonight here at the Kenny, there've been 3 really good performances. And in my opinion, on other days we would have won all 3 games, but we haven't. But if we keep doing that, we keep pressing the way we are, keep recovering the ball as quickly as possible, and then being a bit better then in the final third when we get those chances, then the wins will come.
Yeah, they definitely will come. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And he's right. We certainly should have won 2 out of 3. I think a draw probably was about right on Friday night, although, if a side was going to win, it was going to be us. But the thing I really liked about that, Diaz, was when he said we needed more control in the game. We've now got 2 styles of play that we can play. We can play this into the strikers and really be aggressive and win the second balls in and around them where Tom Krause is going to be most effective. But we've also got Shandon, Liam Walsh, when he plays, marvellous as well, who can just put the foot on the ball, play the passes to get us through the lines to get to the strikers. And that's long term, and you've got to always think long term here. That's going to be so much better, because if the opposition think they've got us covered, we can just switch into the opposite mode.
I think that's a big thing with the Championship, and one of the major differences from the Premier League to the Championship. Premier League, every team want to play football. So Luton were the outlier. Luton was sort of the only team who were going to make it ugly and tough and scrappy. In the Championship, it's very half and half. Some teams are going to want to play football. Some teams are going to want to sit back and defend. And I think you need to be adaptable to both systems. So now he's finding the squad and the players, and everyone's coming back fit. I think it's going to be, I think we should go on a run now. And I think it's going to be a good middle part of the season.
We kind of saw in Friday night the 2 sides that Rob Edwards has at his disposal. At the start of the season, he said all along about controlling games and being in possession of the ball. Possession in that second half, I've not looked at it, and I should have done, but it must have been somewhere bordering 70%. We had so much of the ball, which is alien territory for Luton, but we didn't look out of place with it. We looked perfectly fine having the football, whereas if we go back 2 years, if we played against a side who were at the bottom of the table, for example, who would let Luton have the ball, we couldn't break them down for love nor money. We didn't have a Scooby what to do with it. But on Friday, although when it got to the final third, it sometimes didn't flow how we would like it to flow, you could see when Walsh and Baptiste were on the pitch what they were trying to do. It just needed that end product. Alfie was probably a big loss with regards to that, but at least you could see where it was coming from. Whereas, go back to that promotion season, or even the season that we made the playoffs under Nathan and lost out. I can remember countless games against teams at the bottom who just parked the bus with 2 banks of 4, come and break us down, and we couldn't. And you knew as sure as eggs were eggs that they'd go and score a goal on the counter-attack and win the game 1-0. This felt much more controlled on Friday night, albeit just lacking that finishing touch.
Yeah. Well, you say Luton have got a plan B. There's a lot that don't think they have, but
I think don't think they've got a plan A, is there? That's the problem.
I think that's the thing. It shows that it is there. It hasn't been utilised to its full extent.
You have to accept, though, that injuries are a large reason why it's not been.
And when we've always been calling for a back 4 anyway.
Back 4, it looks so good, doesn't it? It looks so, hello, back 4, you look so good.
But I asked Edwards about it, and he said you get much more flexibility when Amari Bell is in the team to be able to do that. So you started with the 3 and the wing backs at the beginning of the game, and then made the switch in the second half to be a 4, and it didn't affect anything that Luton were doing in an attacking sense.
Well, so
in fact,
much so.
They probably kept the ball a lot better in the second half.
Well, it didn't make a difference, so much so many people on social media kept on saying Chong never deviated from left wing back. Which game of football are you watching? Quite clearly, from the moment Liam Walsh came on the pitch, Luton played 4-4-2 with Chong in front of Bell and with Jordan Clark in front of Daiki Hashioka. It was clear as day, but you still had people saying, "Oh, Chong can't ever play left wing back again." He played it for about 10 minutes while we were sorting out the Liam Walsh and Jacob Brown substitutions, and even then, he wasn't bad in those 10 minutes. Chong on the left wing, that's another outlet that we've never really discussed.
No, but it does work well, and usually you've got Doughty there, haven't you? But the 2 of them have a good partnership, I think, and we've seen that certainly in the Watford game. They really dominated Watford in that, and even in the Sunderland game, there was a lot of good play that went through the pair of them, which is good. The right side you've got to figure out about as well. But when you've got a player like Doughty for deliveries, it makes sense. But when we all thought Tahith Chong would rip it up in the Championship this season, and he's had little moments. He hasn't done it in a consistent way, but then none of the team have. So you've got to start from somewhere, and maybe now is that time.
I thought I wasn't not his biggest fan last season, but I wasn't his biggest fan. There's one thing he really does that does it, but it annoys me when I play on Sundays. It just annoys me. It's the whining. He's a big whiner.
He's played for
Missed
Man United,
passes and he flings his arms up, but. You can't, but he gives 110% every game. He runs his socks off. He presses very well. And now he's going to start. Now he's adding them goals to his game. That was a brilliant finish. If he can add them goals to his game, he probably will be one of Luton's best players because the quality of the way he turns, the way he controls the ball, the way he brings it down with 3 or 4 people around him, you're like, yeah, you played at a good level.
He's just so frustrating, isn't he? Because you know he's so good. I mean, no Luton fan can forget the way he tore us a new arsehole when he played for Birmingham that afternoon. You know that's how good he is. And you're like, Tahith, please show them how good you are. You know, we know it. We saw it that afternoon where we got absolutely destroyed. But to his defence, got the penalty at Coventry, scored the equaliser against West Brom. Maybe he's going through the gears now. Maybe we've got him to that level where we had him last season in the second half of the season.
I think he is. I think you've only got to look at the way he took the goal. An unconfident Chong maybe takes 2 extra touches and goes into the box. The angle gets closed down by the defender, and then even if he gets a shot on, Palmer's got it covered. But it was one little side step, bang. That's more instinctive. I mean, I spoke to him afterwards, and the instruction from Edwards has been, don't think about it so much. Be instinctive. Do those things off the cuff. And that's what you get. That goal was exactly what you get because it was a great strike in the right area, but it probably caught Palmer off guard as well, which helped.
I would give that instruction to all footballers I've met. Don't think. Just be instinctive. Only bad things come when you think. Be more instinctive. He could have had a second. Didn't cover that a minute ago. Palmer made an absolute unbelievable save. I'm right behind that shot. And I don't see it until he saves it. So how the hell he saw it, I've absolutely no idea. You can see why he was the goalkeeper that we wanted when we signed Kaminski. He's a pretty decent... I can't keep the ball on the pitch for love nor money, but he is a pretty decent goalkeeper, Alex Palmer.
Yeah, it was a good save, actually. I think he went through legs, so he probably unsighted, managed to claw it away. But yeah, that's what you want from Chong. If he's not creating, then to get in there, and he's got goals in him. We just need to see more of what he did in that game. And hopefully this is sort of a starting point. Everybody needs confidence in game of football, don't they? We talked about it from Elijah, and that's not a conversation anymore. I mean, he didn't have the most effective games against West Brom, but they managed him well out of that game. Like I said, you have to give their centre-halves a bit of credit. But in terms of like goal scoring now, that's fine. We now know he scored, he's up and running, and he'll be okay. Because his performances in the last 3 or 4 games, after that game where we thought maybe it might be time to come out, and immediately after Rob Edwards said no, he's definitely playing. Since then, he's been really good. So it's not, it can be like that with Chong. I think the confidence issue is like you've just got to have a few things go right for you, and then that confidence floods back.
Let's hear from the man who scored the equaliser. Jimbo caught up with Tahith Chong after the game, and as well as reflecting on his goal, he also points out just what happened at half-time.
So I got it, I think I've seen, their defender was kind of backing off a bit. So just trying to, get on my left foot really and trying to find the bottom corner, which I did, luckily. So it's good. Bit of the season this year where sometimes playing well and then first time or second time they kind of get into a box, they score and you go, 1-0 at halftime, 1-0 down. But I've got to give, compliments to the manager as well, the way he came in and kind of made adjustments and the calmness, but still kind of, motivated us to kind of go back out and did his adjustments. So it's compliment to him as well and compliments to the boys kind of taking out on board. I think he's in a way positive and then still, being critical. And we knew we had to give more and we knew we had to come out flying in the second half and give more energy and press more and kind of, go after the game really. And that's basically what he said to us. And like I said, the boys took that on well. But I think, which is weird because I think we're still slightly disappointed because we really wanted to win the game. We felt like, we deserved to win at least. But I said, sometimes that's football, and you don't always get what you deserve.
No, you definitely don't. We know that more than anyone this season. I think we have deserved more points. Well, the records, all the sort of expected points totals and everything tell us that we deserve more than what we've got. I referenced that before the Watford game, and that's still the case. But very much positive after Friday, particularly in line with what happened last Saturday. I think we can now put last Saturday down as literally we ran out of legs, we tired, and we just couldn't
as long
stop.
as they learn from it. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're now that's the first game of the 3-game week. They've got to learn from that. But there's options now, personnel wise. I think that hopefully they can.
We're going to preview a podcast for Wednesday night where we're going to have to talk about team selection and the players not pick themselves. It's going to be absolutely crazy. We're actually going to have to pick 3 defenders out of 5 or 6. It's never been heard of on this podcast for a long time. I think we can safely say Alfie Doughty will be back at left wing back, but we'll cover that as and when the Cardiff game comes. What else did you take from Friday night, Diaz, in terms of what we can use going forward?
We touched on it a bit, but with the control of the game, I think that was a big thing from Friday to see that we're adaptable.
Did you like it though? Because as Luton fans, we love the hustle and bustle.
I've got no problem with winning ugly. I've got no problem with it. The chips being stacked. That's Luton. That's Luton, isn't it? The chips are stacked against you, and you go out there and you get it done. Yeah, it wasn't the 3 points. We deserved the 3 points, but against a strong West Brom team who I think at the start of the night were 4th in the table, now they've dropped down to 6th, you take it all day long. So the adaptability I really liked. Not having key players in like Alfie Doughty, one of the most creative players on the pitch. We don't have them balls in, and other players sort of stepped up. Like Chong like we talked about Chong there, and he stepped up massively because there was some points in the game where he looked like he was going to be the only player to score goals. So he stepped up massively, which we all sort of knew he could do. So yeah, I really like that. The more players we have who can do a job for us, who can get into the starting 11, and then you've got, like you said, when we have to make the team for the next week, you want it to be a problem. It has to be an issue, and once everyone's back fit, I think we'll be fine.
It's weird, isn't it? People are like suggesting that Rob's this and Rob's that, and he's, feeling this and feeling that. He's about to get headaches as well, selection variety, and it'll be interesting to see how all that goes. What did you take from the West Brom game that we can take forward?
Just there seemed a bit more of a confidence in the defence for a start because of those 2 players that come back. I think it's more an effect that Amari Bell has. And we've missed him for large chunks of some last season and some this season. And I think it's under sort of estimated how good he is and how good he's become since he went from a left back to a left centre half. He can still do both, as we saw in that game when it switched, but that's a real confidence thing. Shandon Baptiste coming back and really not wrestling the game from them in any way, but putting a really calm persona on the game that allowed Luton the platform to continue pushing and continue pressing. That was really impressive. Liam Walsh staying on the pitch for more than 13 seconds as well. Now, he's a really good player. He's good on the ball. He can pick a pass. He is really tasty in the tackle sometimes as well. So that is good, as long as he doesn't go overboard, as we saw in that one.
Just fix that shooting radar, Walshy, because, rugby posts, you'd have cleared them, but not the football posts, mate.
But for me, more than anything, it was the decision-making, because people have criticised Rob for when he makes decisions, not making the right decisions, not making them at the right time. And I think that was really inspired. I know we just heard there, and he said that if they hadn't scored the goal, maybe he wouldn't have made the Shandon decision to bring him on at half-time. But they did, and that was an important thing to do. I think we were all fearing, I was certainly, that would be it now. They've got their breakthrough. They're either shut up shop or they'll just boss this and take it away from Luton, and they didn't. And a lot of that was to do for me was the Shandon introduction. So having him back is going to be key. Hopefully they all come through it and they can all play a part now. But you can see there, and he said that at the beginning of the season, when you've got the full squad there to pick from, and it's not always going to be the case. I take that, but when you've got those options, it is a strong squad. They've just got to believe in themselves that they can do good things. And yeah, they didn't get the win there, but I think that there's a good thing to build on there, particularly after the debacle that was Coventry.
Yep, and we're out of the bottom three. For all those people that are worried that we're going to get relegated, don't be worried that we're going to get relegated. We're not in a relegation battle. We're really not. If we win on Wednesday night, we can go something stupid like 16th. We're not. I pointed this out after the last one. People asked on the comments after the Coventry review why I don't think we're in a relegation battle. Just look with your eyes. There's way too much quality on this pitch to be in a relegation battle. I still think we'll be closer to the top six than the bottom six come the end of the season. Nothing's swayed me from that. As long as we keep learning from the mistakes that we make, we'll be absolutely fine, particularly if that 90 minutes for Ted and Amari means that they can build from there and become regular fixtures back in the side again, and 45 for Shandon Baptiste as well. That, look, do I expect them to all play in the next two games? No, and I don't want them to. I really don't. But I want them to play, parts in in one or both of the games, and that option's available to them. So yeah, well done, Rob. To be fair, he's never really let us down when we've been behind. I can think of countless times he's turned games around with substitutions when we've been behind. The next test will be when we're in front, how he manages that. And let's hope we find out on Wednesday night. So let's hope the Town do get in front on Wednesday and we find it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that gets overlooked, and football's an emotional game, and everybody gets upset by defeats. They particularly get upset by defeats when you should be winning, when you're 2-0 up, and I understand that. But he has at times this season not made the substitutions at the times we would want them, or when things are going wrong, and there's frustration there. But if you're going to give out any criticisms, you also got to give praise at the same time, and there's more praise there from the Friday night game than not that anyone deserves. There's praise there that people deserve, and that should be talked about.
Yeah, agreed. November always looked like a tricky month, so to start it with a positive point is definitely no bad thing. Speaking of positives, 1-1. Who saw that coming? Yes, that will be myself. I have closed the gap on you in the correct score predictions. Unfortunately, you went with a draw, so you've edged yourself in front still, but I'm coming.
Fine margins, mate. Marginal gains. I'm still 1 point ahead of you.
Don't worry, there's 2 games between now and the international break for me to overtake. Where was everyone? 1-1. I was the only one, even in the comments. No 1-1s. Lots of West Brom wins. Come on. Look yourselves in the mirror, people. Come on.
But I think that shows a lot, though, right? Like, a lot of people would have thought West Brom would have won. So to take a draw, I think because of the game went so well, people forget what they thought before the game. But a draw with West Brom, I think, is a good result.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. It's more than we usually get against Carlos Corberán. So we're, if you want to compare it to 2 years ago, we're a point better off against West Brom at home because we lost the corresponding fixture 3-2 last time. Thanks to everyone for all their comments and everything. We do get through them all. We do read them all. Obviously, there wasn't as much time for you to leave your score predictions and your comments in that one. And hey, guess what? We've got the same situation coming at the end of this week. That's the schedule, I'm afraid. Diaz, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
all the best with your podcast. You're going to join us for the Cardiff preview as well, aren't you? So we look forward to seeing you later in the week. But yeah, really appreciate you. Great debut, and come back and see us.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this for everyone as well. I think it's important for Luton to have a podcast and to have something all the fans can sort of go to. Like, it doesn't have to just be Premier League clubs. It can Luton can have it as well. So thank you for doing this, and just keep up the good work.
I'll give you that $5 later, yeah.
This is a non-sponsored.
He's definitely paying you, that's for sure. No, thanks for that. We really appreciate that. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for all of our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be coming at you very, very thick and fast this week, I'm afraid. Do subscribe if you want to know exactly when each podcast drops. Until next time, which will be a preview of a big night at home to Cardiff City from Jimbo, Diaz and myself. Come on, you Hatters, we can do this.
For me, it's the people. and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.